What you just saw there wasn't a build of Squadrons, or even from an official Star Wars VR game. This is Project Stardust, a fan-made Star Wars VR game made from the ground up and is available to play today. The project's goal was to recreate the Atari classic arcade game released in 1983, which is a recreation of the Battle of Yavin from the film Star Wars A New Hope. The gameplay is fully VR supported and allows you to sit within the very cockpit of an X-Wing. The game contains 3 varying stages of objectives. The first, facing off a full squadron of enemy TIE fighters, but you're not alone, as you're supported by the Red Squadron themselves. After defeating the enemy squadron, you move on to the second stage, which involves you moving in close range with the Death Star as you begin an assault on the turbo laser cannons that are dotted across the surface, whilst avoiding additional fire from more TIE fighters. Once enemy forces are eliminated, you move on to the final stage, the trench run. You weave in and out of obstacles, avoiding turbo laser fire, timing your proton torpedoes, and using the Force to guide them into the thermal exhaust port. You make your escape and watch the Death Star explode. Cue credits. All of this is of course accompanied by the original voice lines, music and sound effects from the film, really making you feel like you're a part of the famous scene. There's a lot more to get into here with this fan-made game, so before I dive into more detail between all 3 stages, I wanted to shoot my question of the day to you, which is, do Star Wars VR games interest you in any way? For me, I'd definitely say so. With VR support including the Squadrons, I'm very interested to see what scenarios could work in VR, although I feel most of them would be related to space combat. I would love to see a group of VR players work together manning a frigate or even a capital ship, much like the Star Trek VR game. But what's your thoughts and opinions? Let me know all of them in the comments down below. And finally, guys, we are mere days away from finalizing our October Patreon rewards. Remember, you do not get charged on sign up, only at the beginning of the 1st of every month. So once we reach 1st of October, you'll be out of luck. So if you want things like Patreon game nights with me, exclusive newsletters, extra videos that will never be released on YouTube, hand-drawn EcksToo avatars, or Patreon-only shirt designs, be sure to pledge on Patreon or YouTube membership. But with that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Created in Unity and having been in development for over 2.5 years, Dylan, the creator of the fan-made game, has single-handedly been able to develop something out of pure passion. Having a strong knowledge in VR capabilities within Unity, he's been able to create the most realistic feel to that famous scene in the Battle of Yavin. What started out as a prototype for research into virtual reality sickness, Dylan's love for Star Wars and desire to expand his VR knowledge is what helped Project Stardust to be born. Created primarily by himself, Dylan seeked out 3D models that best fit his project and lifted the original sounds, music and voice lines for the scene. Dylan grew up with Star Wars games like the original 1983 Star Wars Arcade game, X-Wing vs TIE Fighter and Rogue Squadron. All of those games together definitely paints a picture for why Project Stardust is the way it is. But it was James Clement's Battle for Endar VR demo back in 2014 that gave the most inspiration for Project Stardust's development in virtual reality. James Clement, who created the demo, has now actually moved on to be a creative director for Star Wars Squadrons. Who would have thought? Moving on to gameplay, phase 1 of the game is the dogfighting scene against TIE Fighter Squadrons. This is very akin to Squadrons gameplay, except you're fully reliant on your VR awareness. All your information, and I mean all of it, is on your cockpit. From radar heat maps of your enemy's positions, a screen showing what's currently behind you, indicators for your shields, hull and reticle lock, power levels for your laser cannons, as well as health and speed indicators, there is a lot to micromanage. And there is also a lot more in the cockpit that I haven't covered either, so I really recommend picking up this game now and playing it for yourself to find out what I've missed. Here you have to really rely on your control and accuracy of your ship, so if you're really dedicated to playing Star Wars Squadrons in VR, it's safe to say that this game is an absolute must before the game comes out next week. Just expect the gameplay here to be a lot more difficult. Phase 2 has you coming in close with the Death Star and taking out his turbo lasers. This is where it gets a little bit more difficult. Not only are you having to risk getting very close to the structures on the Death Star, you end up being chased down by more TIE fighters and turbo laser cannons that you haven't destroyed yet. So positioning and spatial awareness is everything here. To ensure your starfighter doesn't get destroyed, you have to prioritize potential threats above the Death Star's surface before going back down to focus on your objective. For new players, you'll have to take many risks to complete your task, with risky maneuvers and takedowns you feel are likely to be able to pull off. Phase 3 is certainly the hardest. Not only is attempting to access the trench run difficult, so is following through the trench itself. Whilst Dylan's gameplay here makes it look quite simple, YouTuber Bombastic gives it a few tries, and I think I can confidently state that you won't get it first try. Also, if you haven't subscribed to Bombastic yet, go do so. The guy makes absolutely great Star Wars content. When you finally make it down into the trench, your speed increases, and it really boils down to your movement and positioning to avoid structures within the trench. As the game likes to be very lore accurate, Vader's TIE Advanced appears behind you, and you get to see the scene of Porkin's death from Luke's cockpit, followed by Garvin's death as he is shot out by Vader as he attempts a shot at the Death Star's thermal exhaust port. Vader starts to close in on you, only then to be distracted by the Millennium Falcon. After those scenes play out, it's all on you to make the shot, just at the right time. Succeeding to do so allows you to pull up and witness the destruction of the Death Star, which then concludes the gameplay. Now, Project Stardust was conceived, or at least playable, before Star Wars Squadrons was announced. And in my interview with Dylan, he didn't shy away from the knowledge that Squadrons is likely to pull away attention from his project. And with Squadrons having VR support within the cockpit of various starfighters, he understands the legal grey area it brings with EA and Disney and the potential cease and desist that comes with it. With all the information I've just mentioned, it is why he believes the survival update coming to the project in November could be its last. But to me, it's more than just the association of Star Wars Squadrons. Project Stardust did an amazing job at making you feel like you're literally a part of the Star Wars universe. But Dylan doesn't just achieve that by using original scores and voice lines. He does it by having each part of your X-Wing interactable and has purpose when controlling your ship. And judging by his tweets on Twitter, it is possible HOTAS emulation within the X-Wing itself is planned, really driving forward the notion that you are in a fully functioning starfighter, more than what Squadrons is currently boasting. Star Wars Squadrons has the duty to be entertaining in terms of player-to-player combat, game balancing, different methods of play, and more. Project Stardust, on the other hand, is in a very unique niche of really making you feel like you're in that Battle of Yavin in the Star Wars universe. So if you do decide to get a VR headset for Squadrons, don't miss out on this fantastic fan-made project, because if there was ever a dark day where Dylan had to stop production on the project, you'll be the one kicking yourself in the head for not trying it out. Also, as a final note, if you want to see frequent updates on the project, be sure to follow Dylan's YouTube and Twitter. He posts video clips of all the new features coming out in the next update. Links to those in the description and pinned comment. Unfortunately, that does bring me to the end of the video. What do you think about the project? Will you try it out yourself? And also, would you like us to cover the next update to the game when it launches? Let me know all of that, as well as our question of the day, in the comments down below. And if you fancy it, why not talk to a bunch of our EcksToo fans in the Discord? Honestly, the EcksToo memes are some of the best things ever made in the server. I really recommend you check it out. Links to that in the pinned comment also. But other than that, I've been Charlie, you've been watching EcksToo, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.